Come to say farewell? No need, truly.
Came 'cause I got a burning question. Meve, you expecting anyone?
How's that?
Runner says a delegation's arrived at Carmen. Frae Lyria and Rivia. Got a Nilfgaardian escort.
How dare they? Traitors. Who leads it?
You'd best sit.
Who leads the delegation?
It's your son. Willem, I fear.
Willem.
Mahakam remains neutral as regards all your squabbles. I trust I needn't remind you. So, I'll have no scrambling or shoving, and certainly no bloodshed. Point of fact, I'd prefer it if you...
I wish to speak to him.
I'd forbid you, but, as I said, never seen a more stubborn wench. Alrighty then, jabber away with him. Just remember, hands to yourself.
Meve spotted banners, a Lyrian eagle upon one surrounded by Nilfgaard's black rags. Her hands became fists, showing how helpless she felt. Then her son and rival, Willem, emerged from behind a row of Imperial footmen.
My. I should apologize. It seems I missed the coronation. Congratulations, my son. Who was it who placed the crown? General Epdahi?
Count Caldwell.
Ah, yes. Our elder statesman. Why have you come here, of all places? To acquire arms for Nilfgaard?
As my official mission, yes. Yet unofficially, I wish to speak with you. I trust you've had tidings from the field. Edirn turned to ash and dust. Vizimir murdered Redania in chaos. Foltest forced to strike a pact by his vassals betrayed, Henselt the same.
This limerick, will it come to a point?
Why, yes, to the same as this war. Mother, I beg you, you must see it. Nilfgaard's victory is inevitable. Surrender now, and I shall show you mercy. For later it'll be too late.
There will be no later. We shall repel them, drive them south at the points of our pikes.
This we, Mother? Who precisely do you mean? You stand alone.
I prefer to stand alone over standing with Nilfgaard, with the invader, as you do.
Mother, in declaring for the Empire, I saved the lives of thousands of our subjects.
And in so doing, our honor lost.
Folk who had their huts burned down care deeply about our honor. Is that truly your belief? When I was crowned, a fact you deride, though that makes it no less true, I swore the good of my subjects would guide me. And a war we are doomed to lose cannot in any way benefit them.
And slavery can. You know well the Blackclads put peasants in chains, like cattle.
Reprehensible, I agree, but...
And resettlement? Forced labor? Cruel laws that make death the punishment for the slightest offenses? Are those benefits? Well, answer me!
I see I will not sway you, Mother. A shame, though I take comfort in the fact I tried. And now, adieu.
Oh no, I, not you, will decide when this conversation is over.
Oh, have we anything else to discuss?
Are you perhaps aware that the Nilfgaardians tried to kill me?
What? No, I heard only about an avalanche.
Which tumbled down through no small effort of an Imperial envoy.
Never would I have agreed to such a heinous act.
I believe you.
I'm heartened that, despite all we...
I believe you because I believe the Nilfgaardians wouldn't ever have asked your opinion. Think on it, son. Are you their ally or their tool? Can you ever be sure?
I am the King of Lyria and Rivia. To serve my subjects' best interests, I am prepared to make even the most painful concessions. Might I leave now? Or is there more?
Naturally. How did you know you would find me here?
I received Nilfgaardian reports to the effect that you've been seen in the pass.
Oh, roses are red and so are your cheeks, my son, as ever when you're caught in a lie. Lyria is 2 weeks' travel hence. Had you received word only once I was here, we'd have been long gone from Mahakam by the time you assembled a force and completed the march. No. You were forewarned of our intended route. It means I've a traitor in my ranks. Another one. Get out of my sight, villain. And pray we only ever face one another on neutral ground.
Meve struggled inside not to turn and gaze once more at her son. He'd changed since they'd last faced each other, grown manlier, and he wore the crown well. The Queen returned to her company. Her advisors shot her questioning glances, curious what she had discussed with Bruver. But Meve decided to keep the details to herself. One of them wore a Nilfgaardian lead around his neck. Until she knew who, she would have to remain vigilant.
Time to march on. But in which direction?
I've thought on it, Your Grace. We've strength enough to hit the foe, but still not the numbers to face him in open battle.
So what do you propose?
This war we cannot win alone, nor even with the dwarves at our side. But if we secure a victory, small yet symbolic, we shall show the other realms of the north all is not yet lost. Thus, I propose we attack behind the front lines, somewhere well clear of any major Imperial force.
Where would you suggest?
So I'm worried. If there's somebody who is betraying me from my inner ranks, you would expect them to be somebody who was planted from the beginning, like maybe even during our initial escape, which would make it either Gascon or you. And that's a problem. If it was this guy, it would be the most tragic because it's the only person that Meve trusts. And so if they were the traitor, then we're kind of in deep shit. And that's just a really bad time for her because that means that she was mistaken to ever trust anyone. Gascon seems like the more likely one because he's the one that broke us out in the first place. The idea there would be that the person that broke us out was actually let out. And that this was all... That would make all of this an elaborate ruse on his part. He's playing the long game. Yeah, more or less. The idea is that because he said he'd get out within a day, and the idea would be that he may have escaped immediately by he could have just brokered a deal to escape the prison and to play along and spy for us and everything. If that's the case, you could even think that this entire rebellion of his, not rebellion, but this, his group of brigands making the mess in the first place to distract us, which we know now was a distraction. The way it was framed was that Caldwell intentionally allowed that to advance to a point where Meve would have to deal with it so that, as a distraction, so that he could work on the coup. But it could be that Gascon was working with him from the very beginning. If that's the case, though, I have to wonder, why is Gascon's army working with us? Like, Gascon is not just a spy, if that's the case. He's also our military? Like, I have some soldiers, sure. Who knows? It's hard to... at this point, it's gone on long enough that it's hard to figure out what the numbers are of the army, of how many people I have and what that means overall for the scale of all this operation. But ultimately, he basically like provided the soldiers for the initial spike. So that makes he's poised to be the spy with the way he broke me out and everything. But the part where the strays are helping me makes it feel like it's really unlikely that he's the spy, because if they wanted me to be subverted and defeated in any way, why would they let me get this powerful in the first place by providing me with an army? I guess the alternative is that they must have some plan, but I'm hoping that's not the case, because it'd be the dumbest ending. It'd be very stupid if the story ends with like, haha, it was all my plan that you would escape and then gain power and then do these exact actions in this order, and it all was the thing that I thought you would do because you actually enabled this to happen, blah 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 blah. That's like the plot twist at the end. That's always like the bad ending of a poorly written action movie or something, is when the villain had like a hilariously elaborate plan that required omnisciency and mind control and the ability to predict an insane number of variables and character behaviors. And so the more complicated the explanation gets for Gascon being the spy, the more I'm thinking it's just Reynard, because he's such a simpler explanation overall, because he's not weirdly providing me with an army and everything. Just as a side note, if the this council thing never happens, which it really looks like it's not going to happen, I'd be curious to hear what percentage of you guys thought that was going to be what was going to happen. That there's going to be like an explicit like council thing that retells the events of this map and what effect that had on the various factions and whether or not they'll support you in the war. Because I definitely thought that was where this is going, and it's weirding me out that that's not where we are right now.
I'm considering Angren. To begin with, a thickly wooded marshy land, always helpful in clandestine operations. Secondly, the land's strategically important, as it's the chief source of building material for Nilfgaard's fleets.
Right, and the reason why I went on that tangent is because Reynard is currently telling us where he wants us to go next. And like we know that there's somebody working in our group that has some kind of ability to guide us in directions. Like he has somebody that's supposed to have some kind of pull and being able to tell Meve where to go, and they were supposed to lure us into a trap here, and that was undone somewhat by the fact that the letter was intercepted. Although that avalanche might have been that trap, it's hard to say. But the fact that kind of stuff has happened makes me wonder. Although Reynard's the one that warned me about that. But he might have been doing that as a ruse. He might have, if that's the case, then he successfully received the letter and was just making up a story about it being something he found illegitimately, because it might have just been delivered to him because he is the spy, and he's just trying to deflect blame from him. I'm just saying that if we're not supposed to be trusting anyone, trusting him here is probably not the best idea.
All too little, I fear. Since we require a victory that would be symbolic, we must strike where it shall hurt. And Angren
Just recently welcomed a new regent in the person of Count Coldwell, my third argument. Naturally, if your majesty wishes, I'm prepared to present alternatives to this.
No need. We march at dawn.
It very well may be the perfect manipulation.
Meve had toiled, cajoled, persuaded, and gained the dwarf's support. She left Mahakam strengthened, markedly. Even so, the queen was in a foul mood. For it was clear a traitor, a viper, nested among the Lyrians. Someone who had conveyed the queen's plans to her foe. From this moment on, Meve would need to weigh every word she uttered, even in the presence of her closest associates.
Your Grace, we must plot our course forward. Shall we take the western passage into Angren, or...
Not now.
When, then? Dawn approaches, yet we know nothing of where...
I will not repeat myself.
The queen knew she would learn the traitor's identity in the end. If need be, she would tear the name from the throat of another turncoat, Count Caldwell. Meve drooled at the prospect of seeing Caldwell in chains, then passing him to the hangman.
Saddle the horses. I shall take the fore.
The time for diplomacy, for preparations and negotiations had gone. Meve was to attack her foe at last, and she could not wait to do so.
Interesting. We might be going into the penultimate map then. I imagine penultimate map is taking out Caldwell. Final map is, well, doing the war. I was going to say winning the war, but let's not be overly optimistic about this universe.
At long last, Meve's force reached Angren's marshy woods. Ever been? No? Count yourselves lucky.
You certain we haven't lost our way?
Alas, here there is no way. We continue south, that's all.
South meaning the bottom.
Should you ever venture there, I offer you this advice. Do your utmost to make no noise. Poor soul. His comrades cried out, reached out, but alas, amidst frothing waters, they heard bones cracking, the moan of metal bent and crushed.
What the bloody hell, what was that?
Rather not know, personally.
Hold your positions! Arms at the ready!
It was a glusty war. One of many the Lyrians would encounter along their path. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. At last, Meve and her force stood upon the Yaruga's bank. To find and punish the traitor Caldwell, they would have to cross the river. Yet the sole bridge nearby was in Nilfgaard's hands.
Fuck that.
Your Majesty, some new reports require your attention.
Big old pile of fuck that. Excuse me? No. Fuck that. Letter from Captain Tobias. 3. Your Majesty, you surely know already Count Caldwell's been handed control of Angren. Your son Vellum seized this chance to assert his independence. When General Abdehi's absent from the capital, the young prince pushes his own decrees through the Council of Peers. It's not for me to judge whether this all isn't according to some plan of the invaders. Yesterday, emissaries from Tamaria and Cadwin came to court. I'm afraid they seek to cut a deal with the Nilfgaardians. If Redania joins them, the war will end, and the enemy shall triumph. My lady, the North needs a victory. You must know your fight is of the utmost importance. We need you now more than ever before. Captain Tobias. Letter from Bruverhug. Meve. Remember, the volunteers from Mahakam aren't to go without victuals, bevies, or brawls. Don't be stingy, I'm paying. And make sure they don't chum around with your other troops more than the absolute minimum. Keep them segregated. I don't want any of your idiotic human fashions depraving my decent dwarves and infecting the mountains when they get back. Bruverhug. P.S. If you fight the Black-Clads with the same mule-headedness you showed me, they're in for a solid beating. Don't give up. Report, Angren. Angren partly under Nilfgaardian control. Black-clad troops hold key fortresses and transportation arteries. But little beyond that. Swampy wilds remain uncharted, untamed. Count Caldwell rules Angren on behalf of Emperor, commands small division of Tuzla Castle, south of swamps. Nilfgaardian troops also supervise log-cutting operations supplying their fleet. Further danger presented by monster attacks, foul beasts present in Angren's wetlands and numbers far exceeding those found anywhere else. Yeah, that thing was a nightmare. Like, that was horrible. That's... I'm not a fan. Big not a fan of that thing coming up. What is this? Is this just part of the training grounds? There's a weird spritzing mist over it. It looks like it's just the Hound's logo. How many new units do I have to think about now? Whenever an ally appears, strengthen it and give it 1 armor. I think I want to go back to that. It was a strong one. Let's look for new cards. There's one. Volunteer Corps. Order, move 2 units with the same power to the other row on their side. That's specific. Hoo-ha, empty mug of its ale. Marching on, we cannot fail. O'er a mountain under a veil, taste my axe, you're gonna wail. The 5 power, 5 armor, and that's the ability, huh? Oh, it's a blitz unit, so it can be drawn by the blitz drawing decree, or it can be comboed with the drummer. Move 2 units with the same power to the other row on their side. Huh. It's one of those powers. It's not super exciting because it doesn't, you know, kill things generally, but it's a trick that can do things. Moving units around can affect the fight in important ways sometimes. It's just hard to imagine what those ways are at first. Mahakam Shieldbearer. Restraint. Order. Set a unit's power equal to Mahakam Shieldbearer's power. Charge 2. Look at him. Sure is one growly, angry bastard, but he's no match for my shield. Hoo-hoo-ha. Interesting. Alright. So he has an average-ish amount of power. The idea is you can use his power on 2 units. If he's just been played, or if he just happens to be strong for some reason, which I could boost him, so that's useful. I can spread his power to other units and make weak units as strong as him. Alternatively, if he takes damage, I can set enemy units to be as strong as him. So he's got an interesting little alchemist type power going on, where he's like an alchemist that projects his own power onto people as opposed to other people's power onto other people. And it's a little harder to manage because of the reduced freedom, but the fact that it can affect 2 means that there's a reward for managing it. Mahakam Mangler. Order, damage an enemy and all other enemies with the same power by 2. Used to tally every ad I bashed in with a notch in my axe. Ball-head idea it was. Ran out of space and now I've lost count. Alright, it's a hell of a kill count. Damage everyone with the same power by 2. He only costs 3 to have in your deck, I guess, but like how? That just doesn't seem like a very strong ability. And he's not very strong. And it's also an order as opposed to a deploy, so he might even die before he even gets to use it. I don't think I'd use this guy in my deck. It just doesn't seem that strong. He doesn't even get to do it multiple times. And that was the whole 3 of them, right? So the new units are not very exciting. I think this one's my favorite. This one might be cool, but this one's the most understandable. 5 and 5 though means that one's really hardy. He's at least hard to kill. There's not a lot else. Yeah. By my estimation, these guys are at least better than the Arbalists, which are not very good. And I can't make any more of them because they're on loan. Yay. That whole thing. Alright, I'll put those 2 in for now. Have I unlocked new workshop things that let me build more workers? More dwarves? I didn't think so, no. So you just get those handful of cards on loan, and you're stuck with them. You can't make more of them because they're dwarves. So that's it. Alright. That's all we get. But, you know, lore. In the story, they're helping us. That's the point.
You need my help with anything? Anything at all? I've ideas aplenty.
Ever travelled with an army before?
Frankly, can't say that I have. You folk are my first. And let me say, it's not nearly as dull as I expected. Your travelling companions, fascinating, truly.
Is that so? Who, if I might ask?
Let me think. Then there's that aged woman. Isabel, is it? Oh, your grace, a complete lunatic, that one. Did you know she believes the world to be round? Round! Like an egg!
Oh no, Barnabas, you're supposed to be one of my engineers. This is worrying. He started it with then, as if he said something else first, then came to here, as displayed by the sentence I just said. That's how you structure that kind of stuff. I wonder if Barnabas... Yeah. I think they wrote this with the assumption that he would have talked about Rayla or Ek first. But since he didn't, he started with that.
And just between the two of us, the quiet chap, Xavier, gives me the willies, truth be told. Could just be on account of his face looking like a piece of taffy stuck to the sole of a boot.
This game is really mean to Xavier's face.
Who else? Oh, right. A word of advice. Never play Gascon at cards. He's a hustler, that one. And he tells tall tales. About debts. Specifically, ones that I supposedly owe him. And the Reynard fellow. What a jester. Always good for a laugh.
I'm sorry, what?
Every day he barks at me, stand at attention, with a perfectly straight face. And last, he asked asked if I'd served in the Norm Army. I mean, really, sometimes I just can't with that man.
Very thorough, Barnabas. I thank you.
Did Barnabas basically just say, I just can't even with him? Like... modern slang, basically. They tried to make the dialogue flow by having each line start with like and then, like they were all being said back to back, but they made the mistake of having the opening line not be about a character that's like a mandatory party member, which I imagine the only two mandatory party members might be I imagine Reynard and Gascon have to be in your party, and anyone else is optional and could have been never recruited or lost due to your actions or your choices, by which I mean the choice to get rid of them or you losing them because of something you decided to do. But instead they opened with either Ek or Rayla, so that meant that the flow was gone.
Time I attended to other matters.
Ah, yes, you're still here. Off you go then.
They went and goofed it up.
Always good to see the Queen. How can I help you?
We haven't had a chance to speak since we left Mahakam. Why join us? Or decide to leave your homeland, for that matter?
As I said, I was in your debt. Still am.
You're a dwarf of honor, I'm pleased. But not entirely convinced 'twas reason enough for you to leave your clan.
Not about to let me off easy, are you? All right. I may have been motivated elsewise.
By a guilty conscience?
The horridness with the Fuchses. All that blood and mud. It went too far. I tried to talk out with the elders. They brushed me aside like a wee bairn. But that weren't the whole of it. I saw the shite dwarves living in your cities go through. Thought I'd forget once I came home. Got back to dealing with my own problems. Only... can't I forget something like that? I've got to help. Any way I can. Nothing would come of my sitting on my arse in Mahakam.
I understand, Gabor. And I know you'll find a way to help. We shall return to this conversation later.
No skin off my back. Be seeing each other, your grace.
I was gonna say, the assumption would be that the guilt over what happened means he doesn't want to be in dwarf society anymore. He did mention that the people who came back from that came back changed and have never been quite the same after what they saw. So the suggestion is that he's among said people that can't look at anything the same way after, you know, massacring their own people, that whole thing. But he also could have been sent as a Zigguran spy.
Yes, my lady?
I haven't had the opportunity to thank you. Had you not been so alert, we'd have fallen to our deaths in Mahakam.
I merely did my duty, Your Majesty.
Modest as ever. Yet once the war is over, I shall make certain you're properly rewarded.
My lady, the one reward I desire is victory. Your victory.
Other matters await my attention. We shall speak later.
As you wish, my lady.
Hey ho, how's my favourite queen in the north?
Ever have regrets? Feel remorse?
For what?
Oh, I don't know. Killing innocents, perhaps? Murdering travellers, pilgrims?
I've always warned them. Won't touch a hair on your heads, provided you don't resist. So, see, gave them a choice. Besides, innocents? Please, Meve. We both know those to be mythical creatures. Everyone's got something on their conscience.
So there's always call for murder.
That's right. Dead right. You need but answer it.
It's time I attended to other matters. Farewell.
That definitely falls in the territory of lies that somebody tells themselves in order to feel better about things. Because, even if you, like, the idea that everyone has something on their conscience that justifies their own murder is absurd. Especially since many of the things that somebody would have to do in order to justify their own consciousness, in order to have something on their conscience on that level, would probably be them being a murderer. So you're basically saying that everybody's a murderer? Or everyone has done something as severe enough to justify being murdered? Like, that's so massive that, like, what? Did everyone line up like dominoes and take turns so everyone gets one? Like, in that equation, even that equation of there being so much horribleness in the world still requires there to be a huge number of victims in order for all the crimes to occur. It's such a simplistic view that's just kind of... It's too stupid to even come to the conclusion that he believes it. It's just something he probably tells himself all the time, because if he keeps telling himself, maybe one day he'll think that that's actually true.
Yes, Your Grace?
Reynard, you fought in the first war against Nilfgaard, did you not?
Yes, Your Grace. Though, as a mere captain then.
Were they equally cruel? Did they scorch fields, turn peasants into slaves?
No, Your Grace. They fought with honor in those days.
So, what's happened? Why the change?
It's said Emperor Emir var Emrys's heart hardened over the years. He's grown crueler, more ruthless. His soldiers' zeal for violence has followed suit.
But you don't say that.
No, Your Grace.
To your mind, why do they now despise us as they war against us?
'Tis ever easier to loathe those you know. Before the first war, they knew nothing about us. Then they saw they'd the better weapons, larger cities, superior craft. That in our towns, waste flowed through the streets in open gutters. And they concluded we weren't their equals. It's far easier to kill when one holds such a belief.
It's time I attended to other matters.
They're so uncivilized in the north. Their sewers aren't up to code. I guess that means we can slaughter them. That's the first step, though. That's always what happens, even in our own history. You always the group that wants to justify violence on another group or culture or country always has to convince themselves that the other people are uncultured or uncivilized or subhuman, because then it means that you're justified in taking their lands or converting them to religions or bringing them democracy.